He humiliated me publicly by calling my military service keyboard welfare. So I humiliated him by exposing his pump and dump scheme and watching his $200 million crypto empire collapse in real time. My name is Chief Warrant Officer for Elena Morales, and my service patch is a line of flawless code. My battlefield is the silent, endless expanse of the global information grid, a domain of light and shadow where wars are won and lost before the first physical shot is ever fired. I left a part of my soul, my anonymity, in the humming, frost-cooled server racks of a covert data center outside Doha, where I spent 18 months orchestrating a digital counteroffensive that crippled a state-sponsored hacker group's ability to target our naval assets. The medal I received for that is in a locked box. The real reward was the secure, texted thank you from a ship's captain who never knew my name, only that his vessel's navigation systems had just been spared from a catastrophic, malicious override. But before I detail the systematic, digital disassembly of a trust fund crypto bro who dared to call my life's work keyboard welfare, you need to understand the landscape. Listen up, if you've ever had your sacrifice, your silent, unseen war, mocked by some entitled troll whose greatest risk was a bad investment, if you've been dismissed as not real military by people who think war's only about bullets and bayonets, then you're already in my stack. You know the quiet fury that fuels this fire? Ready to watch a masterclass in digital vengeance? Then share, and subscribe to TheRevengeStories. We're about to teach a lesson in respect, one line of code at a time. Now let's begin. My sanctuary was never a physical place. It was the profound, unspoken respect in the Situation Room when a 4-star general turned to me and asked, "Chief, can you do it?" It was the shared, caffeine-fueled exhaustion in a skiff at 0300, where the only sound was the clicking of keyboards and the quiet, professional curses of my team as we wrestled with a polymorphic worm designed to sabotage a power grid. It was the knowledge that my work, though invisible, formed the bedrock upon which kinetic operations could safely proceed. My sanctuary was my integrity, my proven capability, the quiet certainty that I was a guardian in the shadows. The antagonist emerged from the fetid swamp of crypto Twitter, a man named Tristan Vance. He was the founder and ceaseless promoter of VanceCoin, a cryptocurrency with no intrinsic value, whose entire ecosystem was built on his cult of personality and a relentless barrage of memes. He was a caricature of nouveau riche arrogance, deeply tanned, wearing ridiculously expensive watches in his profile pictures, and speaking in a lexicon of alpha, beta, and disruption that was as hollow as his coin's white paper. He was everything the disciplined, silent world of cyber warfare was not. Loud, boastful, transparently fraudulent, and wildly, unjustly successful. The pattern of his disrespect was a sustained, low-grade distributed denial of service attack on my professional identity. It began in the comment sections of serious defense journalism websites, where experts discussed the strategic implications of cyber domains. A fellow warrant officer, a man named Davis, sent me a clipped audio file with the subject line, "You gotta hear this shit." It was from the Alpha Feed, a podcast popular with the Crypto Bro and Manosphere crowds. Tristan Vance was the guest. The host, a sycophant with a vocal fry, asked him about his thoughts on national cybersecurity spending. Tristan let out a dismissive puff of air. Look, it's a total joke. We've got an entire branch of the military, Cyber Command, full of people sitting in ergonomic chairs, playing what are essentially video games and collecting a government paycheck. It's the ultimate keyboard welfare. They're LARPers with security clearances. Meanwhile, real patriots, real warriors are out there with boots in the sand, getting shot at, risking their lives for this country. The co-hosts erupted in obsequious laughter. I was in my small, tidy apartment in Maryland, the silence suddenly deafening. My work, which had verifiably prevented loss of life, was being used as a punchline to sell his brand of toxic, ignorant bravado. The frustration was a hot, sharp needle under my skin. He posted a side-by-side image on a social media platform notorious for its lack of moderation. On the left, a grainy, powerful photo of a Marine in full battle rattle, staring into the distance. The caption, "This is a real warrior." On the right, a staged stock photo of a bored-looking man in a headset slouched at a computer. The caption, "This is a keyboard warrior." The comments were a cesspool. My profile clearly listed my rank and US Cyber Command. I made the mistake of replying, my tone measured and professional. The nature of warfare evolves. Cyber Command provides critical support and capabilities that are integral to every modern joint operation. Dismissing it is strategically ignorant. His reply was swift, condescending, and designed to provoke. Sure you do, sweetheart. Enjoy your welfare check? Don't forget your chicken tendies with your gamer fuel. His followers descended, a digital horde, filling my notifications with insults and memes. I was a Chief Warrant Officer 4, a subject matter expert who had briefed flag officers, and he was reducing me to a sexist stereotype. The outrage began to crystallize from a diffuse annoyance into a cold, hard point of focus. Keyboard welfare became his rallying cry. He and his followers would swarm any online discussion related to cyber defense, spamming comments with the phrase and variations of it. They co-opted the term REMV, rear echelon motherfuckers, a term with a specific, gritty history in combat arms, and weaponized it against anyone who didn't fit their narrow, jingoistic definition of a warrior. My sanctuary of quiet professional respect was being bombarded by this coordinated, ignorant noise. It was a constant, buzzing irritation, a violation of the solemnity with which I approached my duty. The final straw was seeing young airmen and junior analysts I mentored being harassed online, their pride in their new service being crushed by this vile, orchestrated campaign. This was no longer just an insult. It was a targeted, sustained desecration of the service and sacrifice of an entire community. The foundation of injustice was laid, not in a single act, but in 1,000 digital cuts. The line in the sand was not drawn in a comment thread or a tweet. It was broadcast to an audience of tens of thousands on a live-streamed virtual event called Crypto Kingpins: The Future of Finance. Tristan Vance was a featured panelist, sitting in a mock-up of a trading floor, surrounded by screens flashing green graphs. The discussion meandered from NFTs to decentralized finance. Then, a moderator, trying to sound profound, asked about the intersection of national security and the blockchain. Tristan, with so much critical infrastructure potentially moving on-chain, what's your take on the role of entities like US Cyber Command? Tristan leaned into his microphone, a practiced, smug grin spreading across his face. He adjusted his ridiculously oversized headphones. Cyber Command? He began, chuckling as if the moderator had asked about alchemy. Let's be real. It's a taxpayer-funded vacation for people who couldn't cut it in the real tech world in Silicon Valley. It's a joke. They're all on keyboard welfare. He paused, letting the laughter from the live chat scroll by on a screen next to him. They're not soldiers. They're glorified, overpaid IT support. They sit in their little chairs, in their air-conditioned rooms, playing with their little firewalls and writing scripts, while real men and women are out there in the dirt, getting shot at, having their legs blown off for this country. It's an embarrassment. It's a welfare program for nerds. One of the other panelists, a woman from a legitimate fintech company, tried to interject. Tristan, that's a reductive. He talked over her, his voice rising with performative passion. No, I'm serious. They contribute nothing. They're a drain. If they had any real talent, they'd be here, in the private sector, building wealth and innovating. Instead, they're leeches on the system. I was watching the stream live on a secondary monitor while analyzing a new strain of malware. His words didn't just feel like an insult, they felt like a physical blow. My hands, which could architect a defensive cyber operation for an entire carrier strike group, froze over the keyboard. This was a public, monetized, widely disseminated slander. He was spitting on the memory of cyber personnel who had worked themselves into the ground on the silent, relentless work that kept the country's financial networks, power grids, and military communications from being turned into a weapon against us. The shift was instantaneous and absolute. The hot personal anger evaporated, replaced by a glacial, analytical calm. My vision seemed to sharpen. The emotional part of my brain was compartmentalized, shut down like a non-essential process. This was no longer a matter of hurt pride or online harassment. This was an intelligence problem. A target-rich environment had just presented itself. Tristan Vance was no longer just a loudmouth. He was a designated target package. I didn't type a furious rebuttal. I didn't report the stream. I simply closed the browser tab, opened a secure terminal connected to a non-attributable virtual private server I maintained for personal security research, and began. The outrage was now a cold, clean fuel, powering a machine of focused intent. He thought my keyboard was for welfare. He thought the digital realm was a game. I would demonstrate, with surgical precision, the devastating power that a truly skilled operator could wield from a silent, dark room. The betrayal was unforgivable, and the response would be irrevocable. My first move was to activate my network. This was a gray area operation, personal and off the books, so it required trusted allies. I reached out using a deeply encrypted, non-attributable messaging platform. The first call was to a man I knew only as Sphinx. We'd served together at Fort Meade before he cashed out, taking his unparalleled skills in digital forensics and threat intelligence to the private sector, where he now commanded a 7-figure salary protecting a Fortune 10 company. His real name was irrelevant. His capability was legendary. "Sphinx, it's Chimera," I said, using my old handle. "Long time, Ghost," he replied, using his for me. This line is clean. What's the op? A target of opportunity. A public figure, name of Tristan Vance. He's been publicly and repeatedly disparaging the service, calling us keyboard welfare. It's gone beyond trash talk into a coordinated harassment campaign. There was a pause, the sound of fingers flying across the keyboard. "VanceCoin, I'm familiar with the garbage. What's the objective?" "Intelligence gathering," I replied, my voice flat. "A full-scope digital footprint analysis. I want to see how clean his house is. If he's going to preach about value and patriotism from his pulpit, let's see if he practices what he preaches. I want everything. Corporate structures, financial flows, social connections, dirty laundry." "Due diligence," Sphinx said, a smile in his voice. "I'll start with the commercial suites. This will be fun." My second call was to Anya Sharma, an investigative journalist with the Sentinel Project who had broken stories on dark web cartels and international money laundering. She was dogged, brilliant, and had a moral compass that pointed true north. "Anya, Elena Morales." "Elena? This is a surprise. Everything okay?" "Not exactly. I have a lead for you. A big one. But it's personal." I gave her the Cliff's Notes version. Her response was immediate. "That bastard? I've seen his clips. He's a parasite. If there's a story there, a real story of fraud, I'm in. But you know my rule, Elena? It has to be bulletproof. Evidence, not sentiment." "My work is always forensically sound," I assured her. "You'll have a source package that would stand up in The Hague." The strategic awakening that followed was a thing of dark beauty. We were a triad of vengeance. Sphinx with his corporate and forensic tools, Anya with her journalistic instincts and source network, and me, the digital ghost, the spear tip. Sphinx began mapping Tristan's overt digital empire. He used premium, legally acquired data aggregation services to pull every public record, corporate filings for Vance Holdings LLC, patent applications, all for laughably vague blockchain solutions, property records for his Miami penthouse and a Lake Tahoe ski chalet. He traced a tangled web of shell companies registered in Delaware and the Cayman Islands. My role was the human terrain. I created a series of airtight, backstopped digital identities. I became Luna Tan, a wealthy, somewhat naive crypto enthusiast from Singapore, heir to a manufacturing fortune. I built her social media profiles, populated them with AI-generated travel photos, and had her engage in crypto forums with just the right mix of curiosity and wealth. I also created Marcus Thorne, a libertarian-leaning tech blogger with a medium-sized following, skeptical of government but fascinated by true innovation. I spent weeks infiltrating Tristan's world. I joined the exclusive VanceCoin Vanguard Discord server, a paywalled group for his biggest bag holders. I listened. I learned the jargon, the inside jokes, the hierarchy of his sycophants. I watched as Luna expressed interest in a major investment, carefully baiting the hook. What we uncovered was not just arrogance, it was a sprawling ecosystem of fraud. Tristan's VanceCoin was a textbook pump-and-dump scheme, but executed on a grand, brazen scale. Sphinx's blockchain analysis revealed the pattern. Wallets controlled by Tristan and his inner circle would accumulate a low-value altcoin. Then Tristan would go on a social media blitz, often using fabricated partnership announcements or outright lies about technological breakthroughs. The price would skyrocket. Once the retail investors, the dumb money as they called them, poured in, the inner circle would execute coordinated sell-offs, crashing the price and pocketing millions. But it was more insidious than that. Using techniques I'd honed tracking APT, advanced persistent threat groups, I began tracing the off-ramps. The profits weren't just being reinvested, they were being laundered through a series of complex transactions into shell companies that then paid for Tristan's lifestyle. I found the invoice from a luxury car dealership in Miami, paid from Vance Consulting AG, a Swiss shell, for a $300,000 sports car. I uncovered wire transfers from Blockchain Innovations Limited, a Cayman shell, to a private jet rental company. He was using his investors' money as a personal slush fund, all while claiming 100% of funds were dedicated to ecosystem growth. Anya, using the data we provided, reached out to disgruntled former employees. One, a young developer who had quit in disgust, provided a goldmine, internal chat logs from a secure Slack channel, where Tristan and his COO openly mocked their investors and discussed timing their next rug pull. This wasn't just a smarmy bro. He was a criminal kingpin of his own petty digital kingdom. He was stealing from teachers, from mechanics, from grandparents who believed his lies. And he had the audacity to call me, a public servant bound by oath and ethics, a welfare queen. The satisfaction of building this case was profound. Every data point was a round in the chamber. We were building a weapon of mass destruction, and its target was Tristan Vance's entire fabricated life. We did not execute a haphazard data dump. We orchestrated a coordinated, multi-wave attack designed to maximize psychological impact, public exposure, and legal consequences. This was a cyber kill chain applied to a human target. Lunaton finalized a fictitious $500,000 investment agreement with Tristan's team. The money, of course, was never sent, but the prolonged negotiations gave me unprecedented access. I was on a final video call with Tristan himself. He was slick, oozing charm from his minimalist white-walled office. "Luna, you're making the right decision," he said, flashing his capped teeth. "This is the ground floor. We're going to make history." "I have every confidence," I replied, my voice filtered through a real-time modulator to a soft Singaporean lilt. "My only concern is the noise. The people online, they say such terrible things. That this is a pump and dump?" I let the phrase hang in the air. He laughed, a dismissive, oily sound. "Keyboard warriors, Luna, jealous competitors, and government drones who couldn't innovate their way out of a paper bag. They're on welfare. We're building empires. Pay them no mind. They're irrelevant." I recorded every second of it. The irony was a tangible force in the digital space between us. Anya's expose went live on the Sentinel project at 9 a.m., prime time for the financial markets. The headline was a masterstroke of understated devastation. "The VanceCoin Fraud: How a Crypto Influencer Built an Empire on Lies and Investor Tears." It was a long-form piece, meticulously detailed, featuring the blockchain analysis graphs from Sphinx, the damning quotes from the former employee, and a clear explanation of the shell company structure. It didn't feel like an attack. It felt like a coroner's report. It was picked up by every major financial news outlet within the hour. The crypto world went into cardiac arrest. As the article spread, I unleashed the second wave. Using automated scripts tied to the Marcus Thorne identity, I began a targeted leak campaign in the spaces where Tristan's influence was strongest. In the VanceCoin Telegram channel, his own most damning Slack messages, where he called his investors brain-dead sheep, were posted by a bot that mimicked a regular user, then pinned by a compromised moderator account. On Twitter, his account was forced via a session hijacking exploit that I immediately closed to like a series of tweets detailing his fraud. It created a visual of him seemingly admitting guilt. His Discord server was flooded with the audio from my call as Luna, where he dismissed keyboard welfare. The effect was one of internal collapse, as if his own digital empire was turning against him. His own digital empire was turning against him. This was my pièce de résistance, a demonstration of sheer technical prowess. I didn't brute force hack his website. That was for amateurs. I used a sophisticated, timed exploit on his web host's content delivery network. For exactly 10 minutes, the official VanceCoin website, vancecoin.io, did not display its usual flashy graphics and Buy Now buttons. Instead, visitors were met with a stark black screen with white monospace text. It displayed a simple scrolling list. Public. Wallet address, inner circle. Address, amount of VanceCoin dumped, number. Date, time, timestamp. Estimated profit, amount. Corresponding shell company. Company name. Expense paid, e.g., private jet rental, Lamborghini Aventador. It scrolled through 24 of the most egregious examples, a silent, damning ledger of his theft. It was a public audit, conducted live on his own homepage. Then, after 10 minutes, the site reverted to normal, as if nothing had happened, making the event even more chilling. The collapse was instantaneous and total. VanceCoin's value, which had already been falling, entered a death spiral, plummeting to effectively zero within the hour. The comments on his social media transformed from a chorus of "We love you, Tristan," to a torrent of raw, furious betrayal from people who had lost their life savings. His empire, built on hype and lies, evaporated into the digital ether, a ghost chain with no value and no future. Desperate, trying to salvage something, Tristan went live on his personal channel. He looked haggard, his tan seeming to wilt under the studio lights. He was alone. The usual confident swagger was gone, replaced by a twitchy, panicked energy. "Everyone, please, just listen," he began, his voice cracking. "What you're seeing, it's a coordinated attack by malicious actors. It's FUD. They've doctored logs, hacked my accounts." He was rambling, sweating profusely. The live chat was a waterfall of rage and scorn. He was reading it, his eyes darting back and forth, his concentration breaking. And then in the chat, a single message appeared. It wasn't from a bot. It was from me, from a one-time use account. The username was user004b4559. The hexadecimal for Kie. The message was just 2 words, the phrase he had built his brand on mocking. It was the digital equivalent of a sniper's round, perfectly placed. User04b4559. Keyboard welfare. He saw it. His eyes locked on the message. His face went ashen. He stopped mid-sentence, his mouth hanging open. For a full 5 seconds, he was silent, just staring, the reality of his situation crashing down on him. He knew. He knew this wasn't random market forces or bad luck. He knew he had been specifically, personally, and professionally targeted. He knew that the keyboard welfare recipient he had mocked had just used that same keyboard to orchestrate his total and utter ruin. The catharsis was a silent, powerful wave that washed over me. It was done. The aftermath was a quiet, profound satisfaction, the kind that comes from a job done with precision and overwhelming force. Tristan Vance was subsequently indicted on multiple federal